All right, today's lesson is going to be on proportions. So we're going to find page 12 in your packet. Currently it's page 12. If we've redone the packet, it could be a different page. Okay. There are things already written in here. So as we go, feel free to pause so you can get them written down. I've written them down already. So we're going to talk about a few things. Let's first talk about what is a proportion. So a proportion is an equation that shows two equivalent ratios. Okay, go ahead and pause if you need to so you can get that down. If you don't have it written, pause. Okay, so now that you've gotten that written down, we've got these ratios. So if I'm just given 3/2, I can take this guy and I can multiply him by 2. And then if I do that on the top, I have to multiply by 2 on the bottom. So 3 times 2 is 6, 2 times 2 is 4. These are equivalent ratios. We've talked about this, like if you cross multiply, 6 times 2 is 12, 3 times 4 is 12, they're equal. Again, as we work through this, we can multiply both to get something, so 1 times 3, and then 4 times 3, make sure you do the same thing top and bottom, and then that is going to give you equivalent ratios. A ratio compares two quantities. So eventually, sometimes we'll have some words in there as we go that we'll fill in. Go ahead and feel free to pause again at any time if you need. Okay, so now we're going to go over here and do some practice on these side ones. Okay, so here we go. We're going to take these and find an equivalent ratio. And this is where you get to kind of practice these and do them as you want. So this first one, I think I'm just going to multiply this by 3 on the top and 3 on the bottom. Whatever you do the top, you have to do the bottom. Be fair, play fair. Okay, so 3 times 3 is 9. And then 4 times 3 is 12. These are equivalent ratios. So I would love to see you try these. I'll even give you another example. This one, why don't you multiply it by 2? I mean, you can do very basic. You can multiply all of them by 2 if you want. This one down here, if you need something, let's multiply this one by 5. Why not? Okay, go ahead and pause. Get those in there. Okay, so hopefully you tried that. You used your calculator and multiplied through, and you got 10/14 and 50/60. That is called a proportion. Those are equivalents. So we're going to keep moving through this. We've seen those so far. Let's go ahead, and we're going to write proportions next. Okay, so writing a proportion. We write a ratio. Number 2, we multiply or divide to create an equivalent ratio. That's what we're doing here. We're going to write the proportion for stars to squares at the top. Okay, I'm hoping you're counting stars to squares here. All right. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stars. And then we have squares, 1, 2, 3 squares. So it's going to be stars to squares. Whatever you put on the top, keep on the top. Bottom's bottom. So I always do them in the order they give me. So 5 stars to 3 squares. Now, I can write an equivalent ratio to that by just multiplying, and sometimes it's dividing if the numbers are big enough. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just making this number up. We're going to multiply by, let's go 3, multiply by 3. So 5 times 3 is 15. So 3 times 3 is 9. So if I had 15 stars, I would have 9 squares. That is equivalent. Feel free again to pause if I go too fast on anything or you're trying to write. Okay, so same item or unit. That would be our We've talked about our candy bars. We've talked about ounces. We've talked about stars and items like that is in the numerator in both ratios. So what that is saying over here is that this is still stars, and then this is squares. Okay. Now let's go ahead and look at that up here. There's some on the side here we're going to work at and practice. Okay. So now this time we're going to go squares to stars. So there were 3 squares to 5 stars. And you're going to write an equivalent ratio to that. Please don't multiply by 3. Pick a different number. Then you're going to go squares to triangles. And then multiply those through. Do them in the order it says. So squares on top for this. I'm going to put SQ squares. Or you could draw a little picture. And then stars on the bottom. And then triangles on the bottom here. Okay? It does matter. So go ahead and take this one. Feel free to multiply it by your choice. Let's see. I'm going to multiply by 6 this time. It doesn't really matter. Your choice. Go ahead and pause. I want you to try both of these. Okay, so hopefully you've tried that. I went ahead and multiplied by 6 on this one. Got 3 squares to 5 stars, so 18 to 30. And the other one I had 4 triangles, so 3 to 4, and I multiplied by 4. Okay, let's keep going. Now, we've looked at this occasionally here as we go through. You've learned this in 6th grade. We are going to do cross products. So we can check to see if they are equal, and we can actually solve if we're missing a piece. So we're going to find by cross multiplying, we can prove that a proportion is correct. So if we have 5 stars and 8 to 4 triangles, and then 10 stars to 8 triangles, we can cross multiply. So 5 times 8 is 40. And then we have 10 times 4 is 40. Are those both equal? Why, yes, they are. So then this is a proportion. So it is a proportion when the cross products are equal. Okay, so let's go ahead and try this next one. If I have 5 stars to 4 triangles and 10 stars to 9 triangles, we're going to cross multiply those. So I'm going to take 5 and multiply it by 9, which is 45. And then I'm going to take 10 and multiply it by 4, which is 40. And the question are these equal? Well, 45 is not equal to 40, so these are not proportional. You put a line through it. So it is not a proportion when the products are not equal. And the equal with a line through it means not equal. Okay, so we've got some of those to try here. No, I apologize. There's no more on this page to try. Let's keep circling here because those have X's in it. So now we're going to solve a proportion. When a proportion with a variable we write a proportion with a variable to represent a missing number. We're going to then cross multiply and divide. Now this one doesn't have it like that, but we've talked about it before in the past. Cross multiply, then divide. That's a way to look at it. You can cross multiply and then solve for the variable, which is essentially the same thing. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so Amy pays $4 for every 5 oranges. So we're gonna do dollars for oranges. So she pays $4 for 5 oranges. It says if she buys 12 oranges. Well, since your oranges here are on the bottom, we're gonna put the 12 on the bottom, which means we're looking for how much she'll pay which is going to be our variable on the top because money is on the top, oranges is on the bottom. So now we're going to cross multiply. I always start with my variable. I'm going to multiply 5 times x. It's going to give me 5x equals, and I'm going to cross multiply the other side. 4 times 12 is 48. So we cross multiply, then remember 5 times x. So opposite of times is divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by 5. This is a one step. You can always use your jump method if you use that or however you're using. So this is going to give us $9.60. That's how much it's going to cost us. We can check it by plugging the $9.60 back in and then cross multiplying to make sure it's correct. 48 becomes 48. Okay. So now let's look at some more examples, and there's some practice around the side that you're going to do. So we're going to solve for the variables here. Again, we're just going to cross multiply. I generally start with my variable and I go across to the number. So 8 times x is 8x equals, and then I cross the other side. 5 times 20 is 100. Then cross multiply, then divide. So it's 8 times x. I'm going to divide by 8. So x is equal to 12.5. And again, if you plug that back in, 12.5 up here, and I cross multiply, 5 times 20 is 100. 8 times 12.5 should also be 100. Okay. So now we're going to look at the next one. I start with my variable, c times 42, so 42c equals, and then I go 6 times 14, which is 84. So cross multiply, then divide. So now, because this is multiplication, we're going to divide by 42, divide by 42, so c is equal to 2. And if I plug that in, when I cross multiply, I should get 84 equals 84. That's my check. So these are my answers. Okay, so now we're going to set up a proportion. It says Jose bought 4 books for $26. If the books all have the same cost, how much would you pay for 6 books? So you just need to start with the label. So I'm going to go books, and I'm going to go money. It doesn't really matter on these. If you want to reverse it because you want to keep consistent with money on the top and books on the bottom, you can do that. So it's $26. Sorry, that's a 28. $26 for 4 books. Say we're buying 6 books. Books is on the bottom, and we're looking for this. I'm just going to put x. We're going to cross multiply. So 4x equals 26 times 6 is 156. And then we're going to divide by 4 to get rid of that. So x is equal to 39. So for 6 books, it would be $39. Okay, so you're not quite done here. You need to solve these number 4, 5, 6, and number 9, 10, 11 on the outsides. Please solve those for practice. Let me give you an answer bank on that. Okay, so here's your 6 answers, just in numerical order for number 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, 11 on the outsides of this. So feel free to pause this and write these down. You must do these problems. Okay, those are the answers. And that is solving proportions.